Hi there, this is Voluminousos with Nutrition Designed with You in Mind, with another Table Talk with Vula. The topic for tonight is clean eating, and I want to talk a little bit about what clean eating is and how we can eat cleanly and manage our weight at the same time without it being a prescriptive type of diet, and doing it kind of naturally and not really thinking about it and being able to manage our health and our weight by eating in this fashion. So what is clean eating? Clean eating is basically eating very little to none processed food. So when you're thinking about eating cleanly, you're thinking about eating as close to the earth as possible. So your food is not coming from a factory or a plant. It's coming from the farm or from the earth. Okay, so that's what I mean by as close to the earth as possible. You know where it's coming from. It's coming from the ground, and it is way more nutritious than it would be if it was coming from a factory. So this is not a prescriptive diet. I just want to make that clear right off the top. I don't believe in diets, as many of you know. I think that if you give people any kind of prescriptive diet, you tell them to weigh, measure, eat this, not that, it's a slippery slope, right? And it'll get you on a path where you start to overeat, feel guilty, then restrict, and then back again where you are just yo-yoing up and down and up and down. So we are not thinking diet here. We are thinking, let's just change our pattern of eating. And it does not have to be 100% of the time, okay? So what are we doing most of the time is usually what I tell people. It's okay to deviate, but what are we doing most of the time and being thoughtful about it? So let me give you a parallel example here. If you owned a high performance sports car, like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, would you be putting regular unleaded gas in that car? There are tons of impurities in regular unleaded. So if you were to put that in a high performance, very expensive sports car, it would eventually damage the engine. So please consider yourself like a high performance sports car. You can only take premium fuel. Will you run on regular unleaded? You will. But not as well as if you were on that premium fuel. And that's what I mean by clean eating. If you are eating clean foods, you are running on premium fuel that will really keep a lot of these medical issues at bay, like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, that are compounded with extra weight that people are carrying around. So something to really think about. So when eating cleanly, you are refreshing your eating habits. You are naturally debloating and losing the weight without really trying, and not being hangry while doing it, and not being deprived, and really enjoying the process. So let me get you started here with 7 clean eating tips to help manage your weight, but to also get you to your health goals. So tip number 1, eat your carbs. Eating clean does not mean avoiding carbohydrates, okay? Your brain needs sugar or glucose for it to run. It basically needs 30% of the carbs that it needs to come from the conversion of carbohydrates. Now, the difference is that the brain does not really know the difference between a Twinkie and faro. So you want to make sure that you are selecting more often than not carbohydrates that are high fiber, whole grains, fruits, vegetables that'll provide the vitamins, the minerals, and the nutrients to keep you not only healthy, but nice and satisfied, so that you're not thinking about eating crackers or chips or having those sugar cravings or being hangry that can lead you to overeating and weight gain. Tip number 2, load your plate. Clean eating means you are mindful around the decisions you make around your meals and your snacks. And that includes, eating more of these less processed foods or these higher calorie foods, and deciding to opt for foods that are more filling. And generally speaking, these foods, like I mentioned, that are higher fiber, you can eat a ton of them without really making a huge dent calorically. So, you're eating a lot of food, you're feeling full, you're giving yourself the nutrients and the nutrition and that energy that is so vital for your body to run properly, but you're also just feeling great about the food that you're eating. You're feeling lighter, you don't feel heavy, you don't have that heartburn. And it also means you can include treats without having to cheat or having to eat them on those cheat days because you're full, you're happy. So if you want a brownie, you pick up a brownie and you eat it and it's no big deal. So load up your plate with these whole foods, these clean foods. Absolutely, something that's really vital. Tip number 3. Try to go meatless once or twice a week. Be very conscious and aware of it. Again, plants are as close to the earth as you're gonna get, right? They are growing in the ground. And of course, they're better for the environment. If we're eating more plant-based foods, we have less of a carbon footprint here on our planet, which is obviously a good thing. And you're eating, again, more wholesome, more nutritious foods that are coming straight from the earth and not from a package. So consider maybe adding buckwheat to that pancake mix or making that the base of your pancake mix and adding nuts to it in order to add more plants to that breakfast of yours. Maybe add some quinoa, barley, or faro to your salad, or maybe in your soups or casseroles to kind of amp up that fiber and that plant-based protein. Add beans to your smoothies. Again, we're thinking less meat, more plants. And that'll get you to be eating cleaner by default. Tip number 4, read your labels, please. Absolutely. To quote the author of Eat Clean Diet, the author's name is Toscarino, if you can't read it, don't eat it. I absolutely love that quote. Who knows what's in red dye number 22 and what it can do to your body? Do you know what red dye 22 can do to your body? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. So, marketing on packaging can be very deceptive. So buyer beware. If the word in the ingredient list is something that you can't read or you feel is something that could be found in a science experiment, please put it down, okay? When picking a product that's on the supermarket shelf, a rule of thumb that I like to use and I tell people to use is if it's 6 ingredients or less, it's probably a good choice. If it's over 6 ingredients, then you probably are getting a laundry list of ingredients that your body just does not need. Remember, your body doesn't need the extra dyes, the food colorings, the additives, the artificial sugars. And as a sidebar to artificial sugars, there's very good research that shows that consuming a ton of artificial sweeteners through your diet sodas or in some of these artificial sweeteners or in batters or cake mixes can actually lead to more sugar cravings. So if you're craving more sugar and eating more sugar, guess what? You're gaining weight. So we don't want a science experiment brewing in your body. Remember that. So try to eat as clean as possible. Tip number 5, watch your condiments and your salad dressings. People typically don't really think about their condiments as something that has lots of calories, sugar, and fat, but it's the exact opposite. A lot of condiments have a lot of sugar, fat, and calories associated with them. And one of them is ketchup, which is, I have to tell you, one of my favorite. But if you don't watch the ingredient list, you might be consuming a ton of sugar, salt, and calories in these condiments. A good replacement for something like ketchup, which is my favorite, is Annie's Organic Ketchup or Primal Kitchen Organic Ketchup or True Made Foods Ketchup. All 3 can be found on Amazon. You can also do the Simply Ketchup by Heinz. So Heinz has a product out right now where they do use sugar, but it's not high fructose or inverted sugar or something that you can't identify. So again, try to have or pick up a product that has very simple ingredients, and sugar is better than inverted corn syrup, I have to tell you. So a better option right there. Now, salad dressings. If you pick up your salad dressing in your refrigerator right now, you will see a laundry list of ingredients. So you want to stay away from these binders, these colors, the fat, the sugar. I tell people, why don't you buy some nice vinegars? There's raspberry vinegar, white wine vinegar, red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegars, so many different vinegars. Buy a nice olive oil, an extra virgin olive oil for your salads. You don't want to cook with that maybe, but maybe for something like a dressing, or if you've steamed some vegetables, you can put a dressing on there. You can make the dressing actually on the weekend and have a kind of a jug ready for use. You can add mustard, Dijon mustard, garlic, lemon, lime. Get creative. Make yourself a jar of dressing, and you know it's got 3 or 4 ingredients and not that laundry list. And you'll be saving money as well. Now, let's move on to tip number 6. Eat what makes you feel good. And what I mean by that is start journaling. Start journaling this week. Don't change anything in your diet or your eating patterns, and make a note of how you feel after your meals or your snack. And then maybe next week you can try to add some of these clean eating tips to your menu planning or your meal planning, trying to eat less processed, canned, packaged foods, and see how you feel. You might feel like you have more energy, you're less bloated, you're able to eat more foods because the foods you are eating are not as highly caloric or packed with sugar and fat in a smaller quantity than fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains that contain lots of fiber, where you can eat a lot more and not have so much of an impact on not only the calorie content, but the ingredients that are in it, because it's basically very basic fiber and protein or whatever it is that you're eating. You are not getting any kind of additives. So please note the difference. How do you feel after you start eating a little cleaner? And that can be an incentive to continue eating that way. My last tip number 7, I saved the best for last, is ditch the excess sugar. I'm not telling people not to have a brownie or something with sugar in it, but what you want to be doing is really ditching the excess sugar, because that's spiking insulin levels and it's making you crave more sugar, and it's probably promoting weight gain, which can lead to type 2 diabetes and some of these other disease states that we talked about. So you want to really be careful with the extra sugar in your diet. And people usually don't realize that there's sugar in bread, that there's sugar in soups, and obviously condiments and candy and baked goods, but also yogurts, peanut butters, granola bars. Some of these power bars are loaded in sugar, cereals. So these sugars are hidden in a lot of these products. So again, buyer beware, and pick up the products and read those labels. The recommendation for sugar from the American Heart Association is actually 6 to 9 teaspoons of sugar per day. So 6 for women and 9 for men. And looking for sugar on the ingredient list, what you want to be looking for is for sugar to be kind of lower on that list of ingredients, because if it's lower on that list, it means there's less of it in the product. So the higher up you have an ingredient in a product, it means there's more of it in the product. The lower it is on that list means there is less of it in that product. So rule of thumb, if you've got 10 grams of sugar or more in a product that you pick up per serving, put it down. Okay, you want to try to pick something that has 10 grams of sugar or less per serving. So remember, clean eating is not a diet, folks. It's eating closer to the earth. Being able to pronounce the ingredient on the label is a telltale sign that it's a cleaner product. So eating less processed foods, foods that are not in packages that you can pick up in the produce aisle is probably a good idea. And in doing so, you are managing those cravings. You're losing the weight or managing your weight better without measuring, counting, and being on a prescriptive or restrictive diet. And it'll help boost your energy as well. I challenge you to try this eating pattern. It is not hard to do, and you can start today, you can start tomorrow, and just be more mindful and cognizant of what you're putting in that shopping cart. Make sure those ingredients on that package, you've got 6 or less, that you can read them, that you don't have excessive sugar in your diet, will actually help you eat better. So, I hope this live was helpful. If you have any questions around this live, or if you want to see any type of future topics, please reach out to me at Voula, V-O-U-L-A, at mynutritiondesign.com. You can also visit me on my website at www.mynutritiondesign.com. And when that pop-up comes up, you can drop your name and email address and you will be on my email list to receive my weekly newsletter where I have loads of great nutrition information and recipes to help you meal plan and get you in the kitchen more than in the drive-through line. So consider doing that and consider subscribing to my channel so you can receive notifications of great content like this. So until then, I bid you adieu to your good health and to great food always. Have a great weekend.